emotions, love, pride, hate, fear. Have you no emotions, sir?
If you're hearing this, stay in your homes. I repeat, stay in your homes.
I feel like I've built a setup that is functional, although looks a bit like that Homer Simpson picture when he's trying to hide all his fat. Metal men are one of the most iconic pieces of imagery from Doctor Who. In fact, probably all of sci-fi. Something really intrigues me about them. You could say that they've welded themselves to my mind, which is ironic because they want to take that out. Within this feature, I'm going to be taking out the emotional inhibitor and looking at all the slime within. I also wanted to make something that feels like it has integrity and analysis.
So grown up.
I wanted to make basically a documentary.
So grown up.
Prepare to download information on designs and the stories featuring my favourite villains. Hopefully making jokes along the way. Right, that's everything.
Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
The cyborg's first appearance was in William Hartnell's final story, The 10th Planet. I won't go into the reasons why the Doctor was regenerating, but it's definitely a momentous serial. Let's go back to season 4 in 1966. The Doctor, Ben and Polly have travelled to Antarctica December 1986, but this is no Christmas party. The Antarctic base is supervising a space probe called Zeus 4. As this is Doctor Who, it's not all going according to plan. A routine space mission comes into danger when the astronauts are drawn off course. The Doctor blames this on the gravitational pull of the Earth's lost long twin planet called Mondas, aka the 10th planet. The 10th planet is a term used by NASA to describe many other planets as well. I was always told for some reason that Pluto was the 10th planet. But I couldn't find much about that. But one name keeps popping up, and that name is Eris. Sadly, there are no life signs on this planet. Well, that we know of. The episode indulges in real science. This is because Kit Pedler, the co-writer of the story, is a doctor of medicine. That doesn't mean that he understands quantum physics, but I'm sure that he's very knowledgeable in science in general. I actually did medical history in science, and it was completely useless. It was awful. But now I know that if I get a cold, I just put a plus on the door and pray for forgiveness. But I failed history completely, so it wasn't even my fault because all of the questions were ridiculously difficult. They were all about keeping up with the Normans, and obviously
we spent all of our time learning about the big battles that take up most of the course, when really we should have focused all on that half lesson that we spent on it.
When it came to writing the episode, Pedler was inspired by a subject he feared. The idea of what makes something human, the idea that you can replace body parts with metal components in order to live longer and all that kind of stuff. In a very loosely linked way, cyborgs exist in our time. Some people need them to be able to function. In some cases it can be your mobility. For example, hip replacements are inserting metal into the body, which made customs extremely difficult for my auntie. She couldn't just like whip that out. That doesn't make your nana with a dodgy hip have a taste of homicidal rage. It means that the idea of the Cybermen are real, although it's a lot less exaggerated. Ideas such as the Cybermen and the Borg, remember the Cybermen came first, are never really going to happen in our time because now we fear them. We don't want to be like the things that we've seen on television and movies, because Star Trek had movies. Before long, future generations could be replacing themselves with non-organic parts. Who knows, we might even have cures for things such as dementia and blindness by then. Now it is time that I talked about the Cybermen, dubbed the Mondasian Cybermen. This is the most human version we see, well, at least in the TV show. In fact, no we don't, because we have Ashad, but I completely forgot about the Timeless Children. It's ironic that I keep referring to them as the Cybermen when they have very little metal. Chest is always in the forefront as a reminder that they are not organic. The movement is also very robotic and heavy, but this may be because the suit itself was actually quite heavy. And I imagine it'd be quite hard to see in those things. If you ever tried walking around in one of those toy helmets, I imagine it will be a lot harder than that. The metal helmets make you wonder what horrors it might be shielding. The incomplete facial features on the masks represent the little amount of humanity they still have left. Eyes, mouths, that kind of stuff. While still maintaining that chilling, dead glare, leading to a lot of hidden horror. Then there is a light on its head so it can see in dark places. In reality, all the fabric on his face is just being held up by the big light. So much for hidden horror and more protecting the pennies. That is the best line you're gonna get throughout this entire thing, by the way. The gloves make the shoddy production even more apparent. These gloves were made by the costume designer, although they forgot to bring them when they first filmed the Cybermen. Instead of, getting them, they were so strict with their scheduling that they had to film then, and whatever was filmed had to be the final take. You could argue this was a smart way to show the human side of the Cybermen, but in reality, it was just a mess up. An actor who played one of the Cybermen described the creation as a case of trial and error. The whole episode was plagued with issues, but I'm sure I can make a long video on that another day. Aside from the continuity errors, the Cybermen proved to be a success, so it would be inevitable that they would make an appearance again. The Cybermen did return incredibly quickly. In the early days of Doctor Who, it would have been filmed a week before broadcast, and within this time, the scripts for the next episode were being given out. I swear this is relevant, just hang on. The Cybermen first appeared in the second story of Season 4, The 10th Planet. We might have mentioned it before. The Cybermen's next appearance was only 3 serials later. To be pedantic about it, those 3 stories were The Power of the Daleks, The Highlanders, and The Underwater Menace. That means that the Cybermen were so popular that they ended up appearing twice in one season, which was decided 2 months after their first appearance. This time the Cybermen were different. You could say that they were upgraded. They now require new table jumping abilities, complete with ball storage to start playing fetch at a moment's notice. It's been quite an investment on the part of the BBC. They could use the Cybermen as the new Daleks. Both have become popular and they were being milked for all they were worth, like a money vending machine, a broken ATM, a toaster that gives you lottery numbers. This design was more robotic, which made them more menacing and of better quality, although the human aspects of the Mondasian Cybermen were now lost in metal casing. I understand why they did it, because in real life, who's scared of a man with a stocking on his head? I am. This story was, of course, the Moon Base. I think it's one of the first Base Under Siege stories, and it also has one of my favourite cliffhangers for the Cybermen. The Cybermen were then bookends to the next series with Tomb of the Cybermen, which added walnut heads to the design, and The Wheel in Space, which is half missing. These two hardly affected the general look of a Cyberman, but they included little exceptions such as the head shape that I've mentioned and Cyberman's. I haven't seen The Wheel in Space in full because I find lost episodes absolutely painful to watch. But I have seen Tomb of the Cybermen, which includes a really iconic scene where you see the Cybermen breaking out the newly found tombs. Talking about iconic scenes, let's take a look at the next story, which is called The Invasion, where we see the Cybermen climb out of the London sewers and march down the street, beginning their invasion, and you get that really cool shot by St. Paul's. This time, they did have a new appearance. In those cold winter months, don't forget your silver jacket, made of felt and of clearly visible zip. This is an invasion, this is winter. Why not get the full set by purchasing our silver trousers, complete with groin air filtration, perhaps? I'm just gonna move on. The suit may be practical, but it's getting further away from the body horror that we've previously seen. I understand why the suit looks this way. You know, you've got loads of Cybermen. You can't make them all look like scarred victims, but it seems like the easiest way. But this is obviously to do with things such as budget, which I mention all the time. The Cybermen took a holiday during the Third Doctor's era. Why? Mostly coincidence. But I have a couple of answers. The 3 years that Troughton spent as the Doctor, he met the Cybermen 4 times. 5 if you count the 10th planet. Can you blame the production for wanting a rest from them? My thought was that a lot of the 3rd Doctor's era was set mostly on Earth, and trying not to replicate the invasion would be really difficult when talking about Cybermen. I did see some answers about how the Cybermen writers moved on to a different show, but I don't think that that means that they wouldn't be written for. One writer does not write simply for their monsters. The 11th Doctor never met the Master, and I think it's just a simple coincidence. The next time we see them is in the story Revenge of the Cybermen. This story is odd to me. You could replace the Cybermen with literally any other villain and it'd work just the same. The plot of this episode can be summed up with the idea that the Cybermen intend to blow up a planet because this planet is full of gold, and Cybermen, they don't like gold. They're allergic to it. So they're going to blow up a planet made of gold. But they're also going to go to war with this planet in order to get the gold. So you're going to war with a planet that has an abundance of your weakness. Excellent. Cybermen are clever. It's not awful, but the suits are fragile and they're felty. It feels like it has a very low production design, especially some of the creature faces. And at one point, there's a nice massage. But the Cybermen will be redeemed in our next story, Earthshock. The reappearance of the Cybermen after a 6-season gap was a big deal. It was my first and only episode of Classic Who that I could watch for a very long time, and that is because they used to give DVDs with like the Sun and newspaper promotion kind of thing. So you buy the newspaper and then you get a DVD, and the DVD contains the episode, but it only contains part 1 because they want you to go and buy the actual DVD that has the other 3 parts in. So I only had episode 1 and that was it. So I saw the big reveal and then nothing. The reveal at the end shows that the Cybermen have actually been behind the whole morph suit creatures we've been watching for the past 20 minutes. This must have blown people's minds. This would have been incredible to be a Cyberman fan when you saw the Cyberman back with a new design looking amazing, especially when you had no idea that they were coming. The Cybermen now look taller than we've seen previously, and because of my media distinction, that means that I know that this is to make them look like they're towering over characters such as the Doctor, and it's something that they've employed a lot for the rest of the series. Just look at that shot from Doomsday. They look part organic this time because it looks like they have a thin sort of cover over them. I suppose it's like the stockings that we've seen before, but this time it looks more metallic and more refined. But I think it actually disguises what might be underneath because there's loads of bumps and crinkles. You know, what kind of things could be appearing with behind those trousers? That sounded wrong. The headpieces show a similarity to the invasion, and also like Revenge of the Cybermen. It also has cold dead eyes and a really glum expression. The frown is due to the transparent piece of plastic which lays over the actor's face, and it means that you can see the chin moving up and down. According to David Banks, who's the cyber leader, the chins were painted silver and then covered in cling film. Think of it as a cling film chicken in the microwave, if that helps. This calls back to the more organic part of the Cybermen that I keep referencing. A reminder that they were once us. I really enjoy Earthshock. It has a really good pace, some great cliffhangers, and a really sad ending. Actually, no, screw Adric. The next year, they returned to the 20th anniversary. The next year they were shoehorned into the 20th anniversary special, The 5 Doctors. I say shoehorned because they have absolutely no point to the story apart from them to walk around and for people to go, hey look, it's the Cybermen. Their other purpose is to die more than I do in Call of Duty. The next metal appearance was in season 22 with the story Attack of the Cybermen. The Cybermen remain the same, but the Cyber Controller has a bit of a big head. No, literally, he has a big head. If my friend Will was a Cyberman, that would be him. If Megamind was a Cyberman, that would be him. It brings new meaning to the term dickhead. Okay, that's all I got. I do really like the way that they treat the Cybermen in this story. They're invaders and they're monsters, and in some points they've enslaved the human race. I think they're human. I have to check. Are they human? Excellent. Some are even converted during this episode. They look like they're going to a steampunk convention, but still, although the Cybermen were about to become absolutely terrifying, creepier than we've ever seen them before, more violent, more painful to their victims. In our next story, Silver Nemesis, the Cybermen are chrome. Chrome! I wasn't a fan last time I watched Silver Nemesis. The Cybermen are there to be a recognisable villain once again. They don't suit the story that they're in. It's all about time travel and people from the past coming to the future in order to sort of change their time. The Cybermen are here to gain an item that this person from the past is also looking for, and that's it. That's 3 parts. It treats them like robots and I hate it. But these Cybermen are chrome! But when it rains, this wasn't worth it.